Good morning, sports fans. Welcome back to another episode. Now, recently, the deadline to extend current players had just passed, and three major NFL running backs failed to reach agreements with their current teams. And those guys are Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard. Now, it's caused quite a stir with the NFL, and it's really setting a trend for the market of running backs in the NFL. Now, before we judge anyone and say you should have done this and you should have signed him, I like to go by the fact that I'm not in the front office and I don't see the things that they see. I'm not out there on the field. That's why I don't bash players. I don't judge players. I don't judge general managers, and because I don't see the stuff they see. What I can do is make an opinion based off what I know. And this has caused, a war between these NFL teams and these NFL players. And to some degree, I understand both sides because there is some truth to both sides. And let's start with the fact with these teams why they should be a little cautious about signing a running back to a massive contract extension. If you look at these past 5-7 years, we've seen a lot of big name running backs come and go. At one time, they peaked early on in their career, and they get extended, huge contract, record-setting contract, and boom. 2 years go by, and they're yesterday's news. They're washed goods. They're damaged goods. And no one ever talks about them anymore. Todd Gurley, David Johnson. We're now seeing Dalvin Cook. Those guys are massively regressing, if not already regressed, and have failed to live up to their contract expectations. Zeke, another guy. That's how it's gone over these past couple of years. Running backs have really come to be a dime a dozen. And even though, what I will say is, on the other hand, yeah, there's stats to back that up, but that's also a coincidence at the same time. It's really, if you think about it, it means absolutely nothing because every player is different. Now, going to the sides of the players of these running backs, let's start with Saquon Barkley. All right, we all know Saquon Barkley, electrifying career in college, coming out of Penn State, high overall pick, came out, balled out, and he's been a stud. Now, he has had some injury issues, which is also a reason to be a little nervous in signing a guy to be your franchise guy. But with New York, you already signed a guy who to be your franchise, face of the franchise, and it was a questionable decision in my opinion. Daniel Jones is who you paid big money to. To me, this playoff success that they had, or the season success, I should say, because they didn't really have much playoff success. They were able to sneak into the wild card and go past Minnesota. But I wouldn't say that's all thanks to Daniel Jones. I wouldn't say he had nothing to do with it, but one could argue he had little to do with it. And Daniel Jones is a guy okay, he got you to the playoffs, this and that. He's not going to get you over the hump. Mark my words, he will not get you over the hump. You will never see him with a ring leading a team. And, I guess maybe you will, but you could. But in my opinion, that's just not going to happen. I don't think Daniel Jones is that guy. Danny Dimes is not him. Now, with Saquon Barkley, the way that offense is run in New York, it was run through him. Saquon Barkley and his massive quads put his team on his back, and he carried them to as far as they can get. And he is produced. Since he came in the league, he has produced not just individual stats, but team success. He has had it's an understatement to say he had a major part in their team success. He was their team success. He is their team success. When people look at the New York Giants, they think about Saquon Barkley. He is the face of Giant football. Pay that man. Pay that man. He deserves it. But, we talked about why it's understandable for these guys or these front office, these teams to be nervous and indecisive about signing these guys. Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, again, they've balled out. And, a lot of people will say, Josh Jacobs, yeah, he only led the league in rushing because he's on a terrible team and he was, getting 20 touches a game. Well, still, okay, he's a great running back, and there's no stats, and just because the Raiders didn't do too well last season, that doesn't mean that Josh Jacobs is actually not that good. He is that good. Josh Jacobs is a good running back. Tony Pollard, he took over for the lack of Ezekiel Elliott for what he was supposed to be. And Tony Pollard has picked up the slack. And, again, two teams who have given some questionable contracts to players who I got to wonder if they really deserved it, yet they're not locking up these guys who are producing for your team. And this trend with how the running backs are going, they've really become a dime a dozen. It seems like they're good for a couple years, and they get that contract and start to just regress. And you draft a new one. Okay, yeah, that's been the trend, but I mean, is that really facts? Is that really factual? Can you really base your team off of that stat? Because yes, it's a stat, but like I said, it's also a coincidence. I mean, if you're an NFL GM, you got to see, like, what's real here. All I know is that my running back has been our franchise guy. Teams need running backs. And especially if your offense is run through one like the Giants. The Giants need Saquon Barkley. The 49ers, the reason why the 49ers did so well and Brock Purdy did so well, and Garoppolo and Lance, they didn't do too well, but why Brock Purdy, an undrafted guy, can come in, or Mr. Irrelevant, can come in, and people are talking about, is this guy the next Brady? Is because the way that offense is run, and is run through Christian McCaffrey. And the Giants run their team through Saquon Barkley. So, I mean, it's really put a stigma to these young running backs, because the market has been shifted, and it's been shifting for years, and now this really, crashed it. So we'll have to see. It's in regards to what's next for guys like Barkley and Jacobs and Pollard. I don't know if they'll sit out. I know they're in what you would call a holdout, and we've seen a situation like this pan out just a couple years ago with Le'Veon Bell. Of course, that's more than a couple years ago now. But I don't know. We'll have to see. And Barkley did say he's kind of flip flopping on answers. I will hold out, but I won't hold out, but I'm not attending camp. So we don't really know until there's an official statement release. We'll just have to wait. So that's going to be it. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.